Thank you very much again. Okay, they can hear us. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Paola Italia, like Italy. It's very easy to remember, and it's also destiny. I've been teaching Italian literature in my previous life before coming here to University of Bologna. And now here I teach scholarly editing and digital textuality and digital scholarly editing. And today it's really a pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker, Francesca Tomasi. Francesca has 20, more or less 20 lines of her CV online, but 20 pages of the other CV you can find online in our university website. So I don't know if you prefer to listen to me with the 20 pages or 20 lines, so help me to be as concise as possible. It's really difficult to say in very short words what is the focus of Francesca, but the age is probably the shortest definition, since in Italy, especially, Francesca was one of the first researchers who had the idea to found digital humanities and to develop digital humanities in all the digital environment. So it will be Francesca herself to introduce you to all that has been developed here at the University of Bologna, from the didactic point of view to the research groups, and then all the other projects. I think that Francesca could be happy to remember to everyone and each of you that she graduated with Dino Buzzetti. I think that Dino Buzzetti, if you don't know him, I think that as soon as possible, it will be possible to find some of his text in our department research environment, since Dino Buzzetti has been a philosopher. And so everything that has been developed here at the University of Bologna comes from a different philosophical perspective, not only things related to text or images or sounds or musics in the digital environments, or every item involved in the cultural heritage. We know that cultural heritage is the common word of all our research lab, but Dino Buzzetti decided to beginning from the very beginning, and from the very beginning is a different theoretical perspective. And I've learned a lot knowing him when I came here 10 years ago and working him, and I have the pleasure to work not only with Francesca, but all our research group. You will know during this day. Some books here on the table, just to let you the very beginning also in Francesca research path. Since Francesca began studying libraries and studying the history of books and studying an author not very known in Italy and also probably well known abroad, Vespasiano da Bisticci. So in the very precise time where the manuscripts came developed into books. And at the beginning of the Gutenberg era, Vespasiano da Bisticci went on copying text by hands. So some books are here just to testify where we do begin and what do we care of. And what have been developed not only in the fields of the history of books, but also text, of linguistics, of images, since you can find here The Betrothed, the first Italian novel in the 19th century, written by Alessandro Manzoni, our beloved author, and especially a book with images. So giving an overview of all this simple stuff, you can grasp an idea of what have been developed here as DH researchers. So It's a pleasure to leave the floor to Francesca, who will introduce all our research activities through BOLD, which is a environment and ecosystem, a project, and also a very useful stuff here available at the end of her introduction to share directly and to get in touch directly with all we have developed now from the very beginning, which was in 2016. So next year we will have 10 years of DH in Bologna. So thank you very much. And Francesca, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Do we need to use this, or do we have the environmental microphone? I do not know exactly the name of this stuff. Maybe I do not need to use it. Not sure about it. People is able to listen from home. Hope so. So welcome you all. Welcome our colleagues from as one kind of digital twin that is the laboratory in Amsterdam. And it's a pleasure to have this possibility to share with all some ideas related to digital humanities, as maybe a lot of people here knows. I prefer to speak about humanities, computer science instead of digital humanities, but digital humanities is a trendy word, and so we prefer to use it just in order to have a common understanding of what we are dealing with. But I'm happy that Paola remember Dino, because he has been a very, very important profile in all my in the definition of my point of view about humanities computing or humanities computer science, and to try to reuse the idea of humanities computer science in our vision of digital humanities. So the idea is to give you, as Paola told you, some kind of overview of what we are doing here in Bologna in order to share with colleagues. But I'm very, very happy to have all the PhD students and students from DH.arc, because I will speak about more or less what we have done and what we are going to share in the next future with all the people, the most of the people that is sitting here or following at home, in order to define the idea of the ecosystem in Bologna. I know that now is quite abused, the term ecosystem, so maybe like digital humanities, I would now avoid it. But yes, when we started to think about a general infrastructure for the digital humanities in Bologna, ecosystem was not so abused as it is now. So sorry for the term. And what is the digital ecosystem we are thinking in Bologna? The term that we have decided to use is the one of BOLD. It's Bologna Digital Humanities. As you can see, the image represents more or less a flower with a number of different petals. Each petal is a part of the general ecosystem that contributes to the definition of the idea of ecosystem. I usually start, not I usually start, I use sometimes this model. Maybe some of you recognize it. It's come from the Knowledge and Critique in a Digital Age by Varian Fagerjord, and they call it, or they define it, some kind of a digital humanities stack. I think that more or less is referred to the period of the semantic web stack, so the piece of the cake useful in order to define what digital humanities are. And I use it a lot of time during also my courses because I think it's quite representative of what we have done also here. Or better, what I think is the set of the building blocks that are needed in order to create an ecosystem. As you can see at the very first level, we start with education. Education based on some important topics. From the one hand, the computational thinking, which is, as people coming from the HK know, our very first introduction to what digital humanities are, or better, to what do we need to know in order to start to think about computation as a methodology useful in order to rethink about our knowledge and how to manage data coming from the analog world in some kind of formal representation. At the second level, we have the knowledge representation, here intended as a wide term that defines the different data structure through which we can represent knowledge as the reflection, the natural communication that our sources are able to tell us. At the second level, we have the research infrastructure. So the need to create center labs, it is to put together people with a special kind of education in order to work within an infrastructure devoted to research. And as you will see, and as I will tell you, the research and the center is a very important part of the general ecosystem in Bologna. At the third level, we start dealing with code and data, so with digital methodologies, digital archives, is environment in which we can organize and manage data represented different data structure as a result of a research that has been conducted within a research center. And they had also metadata as, yes, the natural shared vision of we have no data without metadata. That is, we have data just when we have some kind of, we move from the level of data to the level of information. And the other piece of the cake, they call it shared structures. And it's interesting because it's related to methodologies coming from libraries, but libraries as a way through which we can represent data as some kind of extraction of knowledge coming from our data source as a result of a research conducted through digital methods. But we have also APIs, we have linked data, again, here, not just as linked data methods of indication of RDF graphs, but as a way through which we have to start to let data able to communicate. And then we have the platform. So we need to have a place in which our data, our API, our digital archives need to be preserved and need to be represented in order to be used by a final user. And at the very last level, the interface. Again, interface, a different, again, layers, the cultural critique, the creation of tools application, the publication of our result, and the project. Project is another important keyword in our I can say, ecosystem, because of the fact that the project is the result of, again, starting from the first level of our cake, the idea of having the capacity of critical reasoning on the domain that we are observing, that we represent through data, that are the base of a research question that we have decided to put it in order to work on our domain, in order to produce and to define what we can say it's a digital project. That is the result of the whole of the activity that are represented in the other levels of our cake. And so what is BOLD? BOLD is having this kind of digital humanities stack, a combination of education, research, projects, infrastructure, and dissemination. I think that I would use this kind of keyword in order to define in a few set of words what BOLD is, and how we have faced this keyword in order to represent the ecosystem through this principle, 5, sometimes are 6, it depends on the representation on which website I show them. Here are 5, it likes the HD key, but I will be back on this later. So we have, and we started here, you can see in some kind of chronological order, but I think is also a quite good conceptual order of all the stuff, because we started with the first layer of the stack that I show you, that is the education. So the HDK, so digital humanities and digital knowledge, our master degree, is the base that is needed in order to create the first level of the cake, also, or the first layer of the stack. The second layer is to add the research center. And so to find a place in which what we are going to study and to share within the master degree can find a place in which the knowledge acquired during the study could be rethought in the direction of a real research. And since we said that we are going to work on data, we are going to work on objects, we are going to work on primary sources, we decided that we needed also to define a place where it's possible to acquire digital data. That is what is called the ADI lab, which is our laboratory where we have a number of different machines. Maybe if then colleagues want to have a look, we can also go and show them our laboratory, because we have a number of different machines in order to acquire data, but also to have infrastructure for the preservation of this object. And the idea to have an infrastructure for the preservation of the objects give us the possibility to reflect on, okay, now we have our data, now we have learned how to manage them, how to represent, how to work within real research questions, to interpret our data, to represent them. And now what we are going to do with all these data and digital objects. And so we started to think about the digital library. That is to have a place where all this data could be managed, preserved, and be published in order to be, not all of them, but a number of them, to be used by a final user and maybe reused APIs and sharing by other person, projects, and environment. The last piece of the education, but because of the timing of the work we have done on our ecosystem, is the PhD. And the PhD was very important in order to move from the first level of the education in DH.arc to a second level of, again, education, more related to research activity within the DARC and more oriented to reply to sophisticated research question and digital methods, we can say in general, in order to enrich the knowledge coming from our structured data. Since digital humanities is a term, an umbrella term that some different in different scholars have different kind of approach on digital humanities. So we know that digital humanities means a lot of different stuff. We have decided to assume a special point of view on digital humanities. So I think that it's important to share also some, I can say, primitives that represent the main topics on which we work in the whole of the infrastructure. So thinking about what I've said through all the different levels of the cake or the different levels of the stack. And so we have defined some special concept within humanities and computer science that are the principal topics on which we are working. So I would say knowledge organization, knowledge representation, data science, semantic publishing, computational linguistics, and digital philology, in an order which is not so important. Okay. Not so important as the order that I previously showed you. So more or less, these are our building blocks. These are the topics on which the whole of the research is conducted. And I want to go a little bit in depth on some of the aspects that I already introduced you. The first layer, as I told you, I need my phone in order to understand how long I am speaking and to be able
Or less than minutes.
Okay, maybe also 15.
5 minutes.
I have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. I
Okay.
give you some.
Okay, give me 5 minutes more, okay? Thank you. But I try to do my best to go a little bit quicker than now. I said the first level was the HDK. What I want to say on the HDK, we have decided to start with the idea of these 3 disciplinary pillars, that is humanities and cultural heritage in general, computer science, adding some kind of transversal knowledge. So this is the main idea which was at the base of the definition of the master degree. And in order to start thinking in a sort kind of research perspective, the most of the courses within the HDK require to study to produce a project. That is to start rethinking about the acquired knowledge during the course by producing a real existent project. And this idea, that is some kind of learning by doing approach, or we can say a general project-oriented activity in evaluating the acquired knowledge, gives us the possibility to create an application that is, again, the result of the production of a small blade graph with all the data produced by students by the HDK. So reflecting also on the production of the application of the main idea of the ecosystem, to create this DH.arc, which is a place where students can upload their project. They are organized on the basis of different courses that are followed, and it's a quite nice place to have some kind of portfolio of the activities that each student have done during the HDK, and it's a quite nice result and a quite nice approach to what do we mean with have a place where we need to put our data in order to preserve them, typically as a GitHub, but students are free to use whatever they want and to have some kind of final application for the final user. Again, in order to try to start how to put together the issue of I need a place where put my data in order to preserve them, and I need an environment or an application in order to have access to my data and to show them to the final user. At the second level, the DH.arc, again, on the base of the main topics that I told you, also the research is oriented to some kind of special main concept related to what do we mean with a project in the digital humanities. And for us, projects means digital edition, traditional digital edition or semantic digital edition. So from more document-centric XML TI approach, representation through semantic data, so edition based on semantic web technologies. The creation of cultural heritage collection, again, from generally, we can say, structured data to the reuse of graph data model in order to represent our collection in the cultural heritage domain. Digital historical archives, because yes, I came from library, but mostly from archives, so I'm really interested in working on archival documents. So the work on directly primary source and the reuse of different ontological models in order to represent historical data, and the production of tools and application. Here you can see some project. I have tried to choose the project related to people that are here more or less. So I hope that a lot of you are able to recognize within the project, maybe not all of you, but a number. So you can see digital edition, semantic digital edition, tools, application, archives, cultural heritage collections, and yes, and application in general. Working on projects is so important for us within the DH.arc that we decided also to work in some kind of more structured way. So one of the projects coming again from DH.arc and coming again from people in this room, so all the stuff that you can see here are produced by people in this class. We produce also a catalog of projects created by scholars with the idea of think about scholarly project as some kind of cultural heritage. So a project in some way could be considered a cultural heritage object as all the cultural heritage objects that we are used to preserve. And using this DH project file guide coming from Miriam Posner, which is this wonderful blog, maybe you know it, where she presents a number of different projects and through some kind of reverse engineering method. She starts from the project, she tries to deconstruct the project in order to understand how the project has been realized. And she has defined this main result of a digital project. So it could be any exhibit, that visualization, digital image map, 3D text analysis, timeline, and stuff like this. And we work a lot on trying also to define what would be considered a digital humanities project. And a lot of our activities also related to the production of ontologies, which is a very important point that I would, for example, add to this set of result. And I think that you will see something about it. Yes? No? Yes. What about the ADI lab? I'm going to try to finish quick. As I told you, the ADI lab is the laboratory for the digital acquisition of different kind of supports. So the idea is to have machine able to digitize the different kind of analogic objects and to try to manage the workflow, trying also to define some kind of guidelines of what do we mean with digitization and which are the different steps that we need in order to move from the analog to the digital at the different level of the process. I go quick, but maybe we can come back. What about the digital library? The very first idea when we started to produce our digital object is to work on a very simple application. And so the very first version, but we can say not just first version, the very first result, we can say, of the reflection on how to manage our data was to use an OMKS, the OMKS application in order to present the result of the digitization and the different steps for related to the management of our digital data. And now we are working on also new way to which we can reason on the digital library as not just a place to show to the final user the result, but as a general, again, framework where we have a data vault, we have a tripod store, we have a place for the data entry, we have a place for the application, and a place for the final user. And so we are trying now to refine the model of the digital library, trying to do our best in order to let the digital library a place able to host digital projects, not just digital data, not just digital objects, but digital projects. Again, with the idea of having an infrastructure able to publish the result of the research managed by Scholar, but adding also to Scholar a place where it's possible to work on data and to do research with digital tools. More or less, I can say in a word that the application is research based. But this is not the point. The point is to move from, we can say, network that are based in traditional knowledge graph created and related to a single project where the result are the connection defined by the scholar related to, yes, his or her interpretation of data and connection to a set of different knowledge graphs able to define a way through which the knowledge could be really shared when it's based from, when it comes from different scholars, but is related to some possible common interconnection or based on possible concept that define the nodes of a general knowledge graph. I'm going to finish with the PhD, just a set of number. We are at the first cycle, 20 professors, 12 departments participating in the PhD. We have 16 scholarly areas. We have 22 research topics and 33 PhD students, and 5 of them now is going to finish, and other 5 will finish in a few. Do not remember, they have to, March. I'll finish with this image. No, with another one. This was just trying to put together what I have already told you, that he is working in the digital humanities ecosystem for producing scholarly projects, mean to put together people, data, technologies, application services, process and procedure with a special attention. We stress every time a lot on this, on the documentation of the workflow, not just of data in order to replicability and reuse, but also of the whole process, the whole set of steps that we need. So we need to document everything in order to let other scholar or other people or other environment to be able, more or less, to do the same. And I finish with this one, that is, maybe I haven't said nothing special. I haven't said nothing that hasn't already been said by someone else. And especially when I start thinking about, when I usually think about the idea of digital humanities, I say, okay, but it's nothing new. Nil novum sub sole, so it's nothing that hasn't been already thought. And in this case, I think about Vannevar Bush, as we may think, 1945, we start thinking about how the brain function, and the brain function on the base of connection between different concepts. Okay, thank you so much.